Hi there, I'm Russ on board sailing vessel Tautog. Current location downtown Jacksonville, Florida, of all places. So welcome to episode 63. Our story today begins with our beginning in Fort Pierce at anchor in Faber Cove with the White Rose rafting alongside. And when my friend Ken finally got underway, then I pulled up anchor and I bugged out, and it's time to go. Okay, update, it's July 17, and I'm having another damn anchor beer, and I only went about a kilometer, right, so I really don't deserve it, but when you pick up the anchor from Faber Cove, it comes up just completely impregnated with this gray clay, slimy clay that gets in all the anchor chain links, and it's just a mess. So if not for any other reason, I deserve an anchor beer. But why an anchor beer on July 17? Well, because I moved out of the cove into the main anchorage here with deep water all around, and I don't need high tide to come and go. So if I'm back in that cove, the only way in or out for me is to do it within an hour or two of high tide. I always like to go the hour before high tide so that if I hit ground, I float back off in an hour, right? Theoretically, of course. And I did that because I'm on departure standby again. I've been on departure standby for 3 days now. I've canceled twice due to weather. It's going to cancel again today. I mean, this morning I canceled again because it was thunderstorming in the morning. It's still very hazy, very, very humid. And I'm sure that within just an hour or two, it's going to be raining again for all afternoon into the early evening. Yesterday it rained for about 6 hours straight, starting around 4 o'clock. Maybe 5 o'clock, but at any rate, well into the dark. Nobody wants to be at sea because the wind completely... Right now I'm aiming to leave tomorrow morning. Correction, tomorrow afternoon. Well, here we are punching out of the Fort Pierce Inlet. I thought I would time it right, but we didn't. We still had adverse current. This time the current was going in while I was trying to go out. So that was a bit of a bother, but we muddled on through. And on this trip, I should point out right away that my friend Kevin's gone along. And Kevin and I have worked together in Abu Dhabi, and he was kind enough to help me with his run. Update, it's still Monday the 18th. Time is 10:30 p.m. And we've pretty much settled down for a very noisy, very rolly evening when the wind is barely moving right now behind us. So we're kind of running downwind, but I don't have a spinnaker and I don't have a whisker pole. So I'm just trying to use a head sail only, but it's not enough air to keep it full. So the head sail's kind of flopping around, and the sea is still quite rolling because of a lot of wind and a lot of wind changes and a lot of squalls earlier in the evening. So that all adds up to very rolly seas, although they're getting better by the hour, and it involves going slowly. So none of that is a complaint. Let me show you where we are. So we cleared the inlet around 2:10 in the afternoon, and we began sailing immediately north and east. The goal was to get beyond about where you see the pen laying there, that in the blue to the white. That's when the bottom drops out, and that's where the Gulf Stream is. And we kind of overshot our mark. We were going to turn north right around here and start running north, but we were watching funky weather, and I wanted to go until 1800, and I grabbed a fix, and just to see how far we had gotten in 3 hours. And then I did another fix at 9 p.m., and that's where we're at now. So what we're doing is running up the coast, and we don't want to go any further out to sea, but we don't want to get any closer to land either, because this is Cape Canaveral here. And Cape Canaveral, it's where they shoot the rockets and all that stuff, but it also has a lot of shoal water offshore, a lot of it. And some of it is quite quite shallow. So my target was to roughly follow the yellow line. You can get in closer as long as you're very attentive, but I thought if we were making good time, we might be passing the Cape during the nighttime, and I didn't want to do funky navigation at night. I just didn't want to do it. So I'd rather stay further out to sea and get in the Gulf Stream and get drawn north. So this is not bad. We went from 1800 to 2100. That's 3 hours, and we went 9 miles north and 1 mile west, and we're on course to do the same thing and kind of slowly work away. I figure we'll be around here by morning. That's the basic plan. And it's not breathtaking sailing. It's slow right now. Yeah, so I'm pretty tired now. I'm going to get my phone and start doing the old 20-minute catnap routine so I can, you know, get some sleep. Otherwise, I'll never last through the night and I'll never last tomorrow. So early in the day, we sailed aggressively for 4 hours, I guess. And then at 6 p.m. is when we had agreed that we'd take down sail and reduce to just a head sail and start running straight north, which was downwind, so we knew it would be a lot slower going once we turned north, and it is. Okay, so tired, yes. I'm probably not going to film anymore tonight. I'll pick up the camera again in the morning when the light's out, and we'll just see how far we get during the night. It's a Tuesday morning update, time 0600. Excuse me. Just turning on the GPS now to see where the hell we are. We're making pretty good progress. We've been, the old girl's been riding the Gulfstream all night, and what do I have to say about last night as a summary? Cruise ships is one. We saw cruise ships, some going south, and when you see them going south, you know they're not in the Gulf Stream, and if you see them going north, you know that they are. And one recently passed me on the left side going north, and he's kind of faded off to the left because he's pulling into Port Canaveral, which is where they go. My original sailing plan was that if I proceeded out of Fort Pierce at about 045 degrees true, and beam reaching, I could go pretty fast and I could get pretty far pretty quick before the sea breeze died down, and that worked almost perfectly. I ended up about 3 miles into the Gulf Stream, and we were really ripping north for a while there. But the weird thing was a squall. I mean, did not get one drop of rain, but we were, I was surrounded by squalls at one point. All sides, squalls to the northeast, squalls to the northwest, squalls all the way down the western side and south of us. And you occasionally get the gusts of wind that would come that precede a squall, but so I would get those funky gusts of wind, and it made it very difficult to sail, and the seas were very rolly, very rolly at that point. So not very comfortable sailing for a few hours. But then the squalls kind of all fizzled out by around 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock p.m. and then it's been pretty decent sailing. You know, the winds have been, I think, coming from about 210 to 180 corridor all night long. It's about 10 knots of wind, so I've been more or less running with the wind, but technically broad reaching, but not by much. So right now we're trying to broad reach a little bit, and my good, guys. Oh, there's a third. Hey, they went deep. So it's a Tuesday, 12 o'clock. I just grabbed my noontime fix. And we're making about 3.5, 4 knots. Been very light air, so I'm not complaining. Hydrovane has been working great, honestly, since we left the dock until right now. You know, and then because the air is getting quite light, so. But she's, her name is Agatha, by the way, named for the tropical storm that I first rode out in this boat with Agatha. So everybody, meet Agatha. And she's been doing great this trip so far. But it's noon on Tuesday. We've been out to sea for 22 hours since we left Fort Pierce Inlet. And right now we are exactly abreast of Kennedy Space Center. I don't even know if that's the name of it. Over there. that's the Cape Canaveral. I don't know what you can see. It's very difficult to do these kind of pictures. Really, I'm getting gentle wind that I like. I wish the wind was like 3 mile-an-hour more to get me moving at about 4.5 knots. And then I think it'd be absolutely perfect. But this is about as lovely as sailing conditions as you can get. Just gorgeous. Beautiful day. There's clouds forming, so we might get some afternoon squalls. But the humidity is much lower than it has been. Yesterday, at this time of day, it was just one big giant cloud. So right now, glad to be alive. Glad to be able to do this. Oh, look at that sky. Florida in the summertime. Need I say more? This doesn't even meet the definition of a normal squall. I mean, that is just some funky looking clouds, and I don't know what's going on air circulation wise. We don't even know what direction it's going. We can't track it. All we know is that it's still more than 3 miles away from us because we can see the beach line, and we know we're 3 miles from the beach. We don't know if that's packing crazy winds or not. All we hear is thunder, but we don't feel any wind yet. It looks like a big one. Goes way up there. Okay, so the update is it's Tuesday, time 19:45, almost 8 o'clock in the evening. We're about to have sunset. Have light rain at the moment, and that's just a gift because we've been through, I'll tell you, that was the worst squall I've ever seen. The worst squall I've ever seen. And it was ugly coming through. It looked like some kind of frontal system. It was awful. It was so windy that even with the engine on, I could not steer the boat into the wind. But first, the harbinger of the squall was a blast of heavy wind that rolled the boat so far over. I couldn't record the angle, but at least 40 degrees over. It dipped the rails all the way into the water. So we took salt water into my cockpit drains, from the rails. A lesser boat might not have popped up so quickly. We've survived that part really well, but we had a portion of the head sail still out. The main was already down, luckily, and so we scrambled to get the head sail furled up. That happened well enough, and we started the engine, and Mr. Perkins started immediately. We damaged Agatha, the hydrovane, but that's been repaired already. So we've been busy the last couple hours. And I don't know about you, Kevin, but I mean, my heart's still the heartbeat's a little elevated. I mean, it was one of those sobering moments that gives a person pause. At the moment, we're actually looking at a pretty nice evening. The winds are laying down, they're getting calmer. That's the sunset where it's going to be in a little bit here. Sunset's technically not for about half an hour, I think. And you can see the shoreline. Behind us, a big square building on the horizon. That's what I think is a vehicle assembly building at NASA. That big building, I think that's the vehicle assembly building at the Kennedy Space Center. We've been looking at that all day, and now it's finally in a rearview mirror. Drove us for like 2 hours to finally go away and quit raining on us, but at least it's not giving us any more stormy gusts of wind. And we've got a sail set, and we're going to go just head sail tonight. And that's kind of the situation at nighttime. So we're getting ready to start night shift. About 10 hours of darkness. We get the moonrise, I think, around midnight. The moonrise comes up at midnight, so that's good. That's always like having a good friend show up, because it gives you light and you can see if there's more squalls. You can see stuff, and I just feel better when I have the moon up. Beautiful sunset. That's our reward for getting through that squall. That was 2 hours of awful. So, yeah. I don't even know how to describe it. You had to have been there. We were wide-eyed some minutes and kind of relieved the next, and it was just awful. Got me thinking. But right now, let's just think about a beautiful sunset that we're here to see. Yeah, this is our track. Left Fort Pierce, headed out with a strong sea breeze, beam reaching very fast. That's the fastest leg of our trip right there, about 8 miles an hour, 8 knots. Then slower through the night. No squalls, no troubles, just a little bit slow. And here we got the mother of all squalls. You're thinking, what the hell? Why would you zigzag like that? It's because that's the only course we could steer. The wind had come so hard out of the north. The boat actually heeled way over and rounded itself, and I got the engine started and was trying to point into the wind, but I was unable to. I could not get the boat to steer into the wind even with engine going. So we were on the motor for here until part of here before we finally got the sails back up, and we didn't want to turn the motor back on until we were sure the squall was kind of dead and gone. But it finally died and it left, and then we resumed sailing all through the night. And had a pretty good night actually. So now we're up here. Good morning. This update is Wednesday morning, around 6 a.m. A little after 6. I just took my position fix. We're currently about 5 miles off the coast from Daytona Beach. That's not correct. We passed Daytona Beach. We're 5 miles off the coast of Ormond by the Sea, which is north of Daytona Beach. And we're about 40 miles from St. Augustine. And that's about where we're at, and we're chugging just a little west of north, almost due north, but a little west, about course 355, 350, 345 magnetic. And we're making about 4 knots. In a few minutes here, I'm going to put the mainsail up. I've had it down all night. We took it down before the big squall last night, and thank God we did. We probably would have had it ripped to shreds again. So, no, it just was. During those squalls is when you question everything. Like, why am I out here? But it was a lovely evening, and it's a lovely morning. And Agatha, our hydrovane, has been hydrovaning all night long, and she's been doing great. I don't have any complaints about the hydrovane this trip. Really, it's worked very, very well. But we've had steadier wind. And right now we've had steady breeze from the southwest all night long. I'm hopeful that the wind is going to move further to the west, and that'll enable me to do a little broad reaching with both sails. If I put the mainsail up now, then it kind of shadows the Genoa, and then one of the two is going to start flopping around, so you can't really. I'll try it in a little while. Alright, so the engine's running because that's our new squall procedure. This squall it looks like it's passing south of us, but we're expecting to catch some of that straggler rain. And it looks like clear, better skies further out, although maybe another squall early evening, you never know. This one is, so our heading is, we're almost due north, and this is passing south of us. Early in the day for squalls. It's only like 2:30 in the afternoon, so kind of unexpected. I'm hopeful that we don't get any more from that stuff, but we'll just have to wait and see. So I've been doing some reading on what the best squall tactics are. And I'll back up and tell a sea story. So when I left St. Petersburg on May 31, I got caught in the mother of all squalls. At the time, I thought that was my worst squall ever. And I saw it coming off the coast, just like we saw this one today. And I made the decision at that time to take in all of my sails, drop the mainsail completely because it had been a full sail. I didn't refit, I took it all the way down, and I took my head sail like 99% in with just a little sliver sticking out. Then I started the engine, put on my raincoat, closed the doors and hatches, and just drove through it. And just pointed the boat roughly into the wind at a 10-20 degree angle and rode the waves the best I could. And in 20 minutes it was over. But I've been thinking, what's the professionally perfect way to handle squalls? And I looked at a lot of websites over the last 2 weeks, and they all agree. When you see a squall come in, reef early. Don't wait until the last minute, and reef often. Or some guys recommend starting the engine and taking all sail down if it looks like it's going to be a violent squall. If it's just rain, you can leave your sails up. But how do you know that? And you can tell sometimes by looking at the squall. Whoa! And if you see the rain is at an angle, like it is over there, that's telling you there's going to be wind blowing out at the bottom, kicking out. And we're going to get some of that wind, and I see rain and wind. I don't know what's going to be, so that's why we're still motoring, because we might get some of that stuff in a minute here. So So when we do, when this video is posted, I'll be looking forward to, if we got other seasoned sailors out there who know more than I do, just feel free to share with everybody, you know, what are some other suggestions for handling squalls. So we did well this one. Kevin and I talked about it and we were prepared. Now we're getting more rain. So we got to shut the hatch. Yeah, so I gotta put the camera away because this is not the GoPro. But yeah, so look, give me your comments on the best way to handle squalls. We just think we did well today, but I mean, do you always have to start the engine? You know, is that overdoing it? I don't know. So anyway, it's Wednesday. I'm looking at the clock in there, about 6:35 p.m. and we are right offshore from St. Augustine, Obadar. So I got to tell you about weather. We have seen some of the funkiest weather, honestly, I can recall seeing in my life. These have not been normal thunderstorms or squalls, that I call them, that come with the heat in the afternoon. So the basic theory is warm air over the land rises as it heats up every day. And it goes up into the air when it's full of moisture, and the moisture cools off and turns into clouds, and at some point they become huge thunder clouds and they move and they rain, right? And so that's a typical Florida pattern. Everybody who lives in Florida knows that. East Coast, West Coast, Central, it doesn't matter. But the cloud formations have been pretty damn weird today. And I'm going to show you some right here. I mean, they're still here. And it's getting into that time of day where we expect all the squall activity to be stopped. But we've had some clouds that look pretty freaky, you know, almost unnerving. Some of them, the one we went through yesterday, that was a strange looking cloud formation, and it was the most violent squall slash storm I've ever been in. It was violent. It was horrible. And it was the weather was unnerving. Yesterday, this time of day, it finally settled down. Yesterday in the evening, around 7 p.m. and by 8 p.m. the seas were returning to normal. And right now, we're almost repeating it, because today the stormy weather started about 2:30 in the afternoon, which is kind of early. And it's finally starting to lay down. So it stopped raining about 10 minutes ago or 20 minutes ago, and the sea is still calming down. I'm just hopeful that we maintain this tailwind all night long. Because right now the wind's coming from about the 210, a little bit out of the southwest, and it's able to push us around 3 knots, and we really need that to stay tonight. And I'm really hoping that I don't get any more rain, because I'm pretty well sick of Florida thunderstorms. And I'm thankful that tomorrow morning, if all goes well, we'll be entering the St. John's River system, inshallah. Okay, it's about 1 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, July 21. We'll just take a look at the chart plotter. That's the easiest way to tell the picture. So here's Florida. Here's me. Here's Cape Canaveral. Fort Pierce is down here. We've been up the coast. God damn you, get out of there. We've been up the coast, around the Cape, and began following the yellow line. And now we're making our final approach on Jacksonville in the St. John's River entrance. And this chart plotter has a feature by which, using these numbers, you can pick your go-to point. So for me, I picked the second buoy in because I plan to cut the corner. I'm not going out to the sea buoy. I'm going to cut the corner on the channel and join it here. And it just takes my current position and that final position and tells me, if I maintain that speed, that's how far it is to go, and that's the distance. So it's 10.8 miles, about 4 to 5 hours, depending on how my speed varies. And we're trying to time that delicately. But I'm not too worried about those guys at the moment. They're too far away to be of a concern. Yeah, been a long few days. It's only been 2 full days, 2.5 days now since we left Fort Pierce, and you know, tired, a little bit loopy, I suppose, and all that. But right now, just trying to time it so we get into the St. Johns River at a good time, with respect to daylight availability and being able to see where the hell we're going, and also with respect to tide. We don't want to get there just at the peak of ebb tide when the water's rushing on out of the St. Johns River, and every little molecule of water wants to leave the river just as we're trying to go upriver. We tried that at the Fort Pierce Inlet, and that sucked. So ideally, we would not enter the river until around 8 o'clock in the morning, because it'll be slacker water. We should be able to get in there more easily, and also we can see. So for a couple of reasons, we're kind of putting on the brakes. I'm happy to be in the main ship channel in the dark. That doesn't bother me at all. But once you get into the river and start doing all those twists and turns, you have to turn on the motor, and it makes all that noise, and everything just gets harder. So it's better to just go anchor if that's what you're going to do. If there was an anchorage outside of the river system, out in the ocean somewhere where it was well protected, I'd probably go do that. But for now, well, let's see, update. The time's about 2:45 in the morning, obviously. That's a tugboat. Tugboat, the rightmost group of lights, you see 3 verticals, that's 2 verticals, whites I think, and shows you he's a tug. There's a green light in there showing that's his starboard side. He's towing something, a big tug, a big tow that has a freaking green light on it. But that's a starboard running light for the tow, so those 2 things are connected. And we're pretty much passing on opposite courses. He's going southeast, I'm going northwest. About not even half a mile away, so that's all close enough for all of us here. So we're trying to maneuver here in the dark, approaching the Jacksonville harbor.
I've seen a lot of dolphin in there.
X marks the spot. So Kevin's driving, gives me an opportunity, very rare opportunity, with food in my mouth, pardon me. This is a St. Johns River entrance. And good morning. Lots of dolphin behind me. Sharing the waterway with his big ass ship. We're heading up the St. Johns River now. Looking for shelter. Oh my God, look at my hair. Yeah, the journey's not over yet, but we are in the St. Johns River, currently anchored, waiting for the high tide to start flooding in, with the hope being that the very, very strong current racing downriver would be slackened so that I can make my way upriver. I've got a long way to go against this current, and I was only making about not even a knot and a half. So, not good. I'm not sure what the secret is, but I'm going to call the marina and see what they know about when's the best time to head upriver, and from that trying to decide if we're going to make it to that marina today, or if we'll just get as far as we can go and then just chill out somewhere. I mean, it really doesn't matter. We're done with the open water portion of this trip. We're in the river now, trying to work our way up about 10 miles to Jacksonville, and then, oh hell, I don't know, more than 10, more like 15 to Jacksonville, another 5 miles beyond it to the St. Johns River open area. And then as an old Navy guy, ships like this always catch my eye. From a distance, at first I thought it was a Ticonderoga class cruiser, but I realized it's not, so I think it's an early bird destroyer. Not really sure. you'll see it floating in the dry dock. Now those dry docks themselves, they themselves can submerge, and that's how the ship drives in. And then you pump the water out of the ballast tanks of the dry dock, and it, raises up, and there you go. You can do your work on the boat. And it can be towed around by tugboat. That's the I-95 bridge. This morning, I was getting ready to enter the Jacksonville, the St. Johns River inlet, and was about a mile away from the channel, ready to cut into it, and I saw this guy coming from out at sea. And these guys were on a schedule, and they did not slow down one bit, and they charged in there ahead of us. And we let them. I mean, I turned off to the side and I let them go in first, and then I pulled in kind of behind them, but they're going easily 10 knots in that channel, outrunning me, so it's better that they did go first, otherwise he'd be breathing down my neck. It's a tugboat on the move over there by the railroad. This tugboat is pushing the barge, and behind him is another tugboat with a barge that was just sitting there. So that's why this guy's cutting in front of us, because he had no other place to go. Pretty busy railway. And we're going to go under the two bridges, and we are done for the frickin' day. Oh my God, can't wait for that. Okay, so cheers, Kevin. Thank you for riding with me. I really appreciate your company on this trip. And for me, this was the first time, and to the viewers don't know this, but the first time I've ever had anybody with me on the boat out at sea. I have had guests aboard to go on an anchor run. We went out, anchor up, anchor down a couple times, for like half a mile out. Sure. But that's it. So I know that I've learned a lot, and I'm still processing what that is. But I've learned that it's okay with me to have somebody on board as long as that person is, has the same characteristics as you have. So I mean, you're easy to get along with. You know your stuff. You've been boating your whole life, so that helps. So I appreciate it a lot, and I just want to know what you think you've learned. What do you think? We just got back last night, and we had a good breakfast. We finally slept, so what are your thoughts?
Well, overall, I'd say that 80% of the trip was what I expected. 4 to 6 knots, decent seas, decent weather. And 10% was a little boring. We got in the doldrums.
Yes, we did.
And you see the same spot on land over and over. And then 10% seat of the pants excitement.
Yeah, those squalls.
We went through those squalls.
Those squalls, huh?
But we handled that well, and I learned a lot from your sailing techniques, me being a novice sailor.
Okay, well thank you for that.
And so I had a good time. It was interesting. I'd like to do it again.
Well, good, thank you for that. And so for the viewers, Kevin and I both agreed that we'll process this a little bit more and kind of even write down what things specifically we learned. Because I like to know if there's things I do that are good in particular that maybe Kevin has never seen before, or same thing. I like the way you drive the boat. Actually, I think you maneuver the boat very well. You're always attentive, and I know people who drive a boat and they get drifty. They're looking around, and you focus when you're doing it. And anyway, I appreciate you being aboard. So you're welcome anytime on this ship, Kevin. So
I appreciate the trip, and thank you very much, Captain Russ.
Thank you, sir. All right, that's it. Thanks, guys.